Africa has always been an important home to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which has led various Khulafa to make regular visits to the continent for nearly the past 50 years. In April 1970, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III became the first Khalifa to visit the continent. He wished to gain first-hand knowledge of the Ahmadiyya community in Africa and to assure the people there he would continue the good work of his predecessor, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, under whom the Tehreek-e-Jadid scheme was established, which sent the first missionaries to Africa and began the establishment of Ahmadiyyat on the continent. During his 9-week tour of West Africa, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III visited Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia. He witnessed and experienced much during his tour, seeing firsthand the conditions the people there were faced with and living in. So in Gambia, he was inspired to launch the Nusrat Jahan scheme, the purpose of which was to serve the African continent by opening schools, hospitals, and clinics. The visit was documented in the West Africa Weekly of London, which spoke of the visit of the Khalifa, the energy of the community, and the coverage it received. The next Khalifa to visit would be Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV on his own tour in 1988. He would go on to visit the same countries as Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahmahullah in his tour of Africa. Due to the growth and the impact made by the Ahmadiyya community in Africa, this time the Khalifa was met by the President and Vice President of Ghana and the Presidents of Sierra Leone, as well as parliamentarians, ministers and chiefs. Later on in the same year, he would visit East Africa, going to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, as well as Mauritius. The Khalifa was a firm believer in the people of Africa and believed that the continent needed investment to become self-sufficient. It could be said that it was through these trips that the seeds were sown for the creation of the charity Humanity First later on in 1994 by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV. The next visit was to be done by the current Khalifa, but his relationship with Africa would begin a long time before this. During the same Nusrat Jahan scheme founded under Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III in Gambia, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V ayyadahullah ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz was sent to Ghana, where he worked as a teacher for 8 years. Having an MSc in agricultural science, his work there led him to become the first person to successfully grow wheat in Ghana, called Ghana wheat. Then, becoming Khalifa in 2003, his close relationship with Africa continued, which led him to making his first visit there within just a year in 2004. On this trip, he visited Ghana, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. He was once again to make a trip the following year in 2005, this time in East Africa, visiting Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. The aim of the Khalifa in these visits was to build a connection with the Ahmadiyya community in Africa, as well as oversee the various projects of the community taking place in Africa. It also included meetings with parliamentarians and ministers to spread the message of progress, peace, and love. He was to visit again in 2008 during the centenary tour, where he visited Nigeria, Benin, and Ghana, the last of whom commemorated the Khilafat centenary with his achievement of growing the first ever wheat plant with a stamp. All of this making him the Khalifa who had visited Africa the most in the history of Ahmadiyyat. And this had led to various advancements in Africa, such as the creation of MTA Africa, a channel broadcast throughout the continent with the state-of-the-art studios in Ghana, Mauritius, Tanzania, and soon to open in Uganda, Burkina Faso, and the Gambia. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V has also continued the work put in place by his predecessors, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III and the Fourth, with the Nusrat Jahan scheme to this day opening 684 schools and 36 hospitals, and charities such as Humanity First having programs covering water, food, education, health and energy in Africa, directly affecting millions of lives.
I firmly believe that if the African countries and people unite together and fulfill the requirements of justice, then one day Africa will emerge as a true global power.
So it is clear to see that with every visit by the Khalifa to the African continent, an impact has been made that can be felt not only across Africa but beyond. And with the massive growth of Ahmadiyyat on the continent, you can be sure that there are many more visits to come.